Is that agreed? Agreed.
Thank you, Laska Hirlock, and thank you, Minister, for your time in the Seanad this afternoon. I'd also like to thank the Leader of the House for facilitating this debate in government time, which is strongly welcome and just illustrates the strength of the cross-party support and enthusiasm for this piece of legislation. I'd like to strongly welcome the bill to the Seanad and express my strong support for its provisions and the principle of withdrawing investment in fossil fuel companies as a measure to combat climate change. I'd like to congratulate Deputy Thomas Pringle for successfully steering the legislation through the Dáil as a private member's bill, which, as a lot of us will know, in opposition is not always an easy feat. I'd also like to acknowledge the role played by Trinity College Dublin and its students in influencing and stimulating the divestment debate domestically here in Ireland. I was involved in navigating discussions back when I was president of the union that led to the move by the college's board to become the first university in Ireland to divest of fossil fuel investments back in 2016. I'd also like to pay tribute to the student activists involved in Fossil Free TCD and the incredible grassroots campaign, along with Trócaire, that spearheaded the movement for their impressive advocacy on an issue that, back when it started, was not a mainstream political issue, but eventually, through their work and the place that Trinity occupies in Irish public debate, became one. The issue has gone from one campaigned on by a handful of students just a few years ago to one that is now the subject of an act of the Oireachtas. And I'd like to recognise the role of Trinity College students in making that rapid progress happen. As a senator who's not always parochial, I'm sure you will forgive me for giving so much congratulations to Trinity College. As a public policy measure, divestment is important because it allows for carbon bubble, which is when divestment in stocks and shares in fossil fuel companies reduces the value of these companies to the point that these companies will be unable to open more oil, natural gas or coal fields, making the fossil fuels themselves stranded assets, unable to be used, burnt and therefore reducing CO2 emissions. The value of fossil fuel companies is estimated in the market to include the value of the massive untapped fossil fuel reserves that have yet to fully open up and be extracted. Though through divestment we can make sure these reserves stay as they are and not support the often reckless behaviour of fossil fuel companies in terms of exploration through our state investments. This bill will represent an important part of the Irish efforts to contribute to the global climate justice movement, especially at a time when we are failing to hit our emission targets, and even our own Taoiseach describes Ireland as a laggard in European terms. As a small island nation off the coast of Europe with a temperate climate supported by marine trends, Ireland is unfortunately vulnerable to the extreme changes in weather. These extreme changes disproportionately impact on disadvantaged and poorer communities the most, heaping additional pressure on us to make sure Ireland is pulling its weight. This bill is an important part of that, but only a small one, and I'd hope, Minister, that following the passage of this bill, that you would use its climate justice principles to inform all your work in the Department of Finance and Public Expenditure. Climate justice is the ultimate cross-departmental issue, and as the holder of the purse strings, you are in a unique position to orchestrate efforts across the state to reduce emissions and make the move to a just transition. Thank you again, Minister, for your time, and I look forward to seeing this bill return at committee stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.